All right. All right. Thank you very much for joining us for another week of this Facebook Live. And my name is Brandon Oliver. I'm the Director of Marketing and Communications for East Central ISD. And we're getting closer to the start of school year. And so we're getting pretty excited. But I want to bring on, of course, the man himself, the superintendent of East Central, Mr. Roland Toscano. Mr. Toscano, how are you doing today?
I'm doing great, Brandon. Happy Friday. Good to see you.
Yeah, it's Friday, but we're getting so much closer to the beginning of school. I mean, you can feel it.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely. And, you know, uh, our goal is to continue to focus on safety as it relates to our circumstances. But at the same time, what a tremendous sense of urgency about getting our kids back into the classroom. And if remote is our only option, at least initially, then we're getting prepared for a high quality remote learning experience. And ultimately, we want our kids in the buildings so they can learn where they learn best, and we want to make sure that our families can get back to work, because we know having children at home, especially young ones, is pretty burdensome when it comes to those of us that have households where everybody works. And so want everybody to know that does not fall short on our level of awareness, and we're working really hard to do everything we can to make sure that in that order we're safe, we're standing up quality instruction, and we're as soon as possible getting kids back into our buildings. That being said, we've got several things to share with all of you this evening that we believe is going to be very pertinent and very timely. With the start of the year approaching, I know that there's a lot of anxiety starting to mount about, when am I going to hear from my teacher? When am I going to get my schedule? How am I going to know, where to log in or how to log in? What if I requested technology? When am I going to get that technology? What if I didn't request technology, but I need it? What do I do now? So many of those kinds of questions are circling in the community, and we want to give you information that we believe is going to get you ready before day one, and hopefully relieve some of the anxiety that you might be having right now, knowing that there's a plan in place and very specific communication is coming. But before I do that, I want to talk a little bit about San Antonio Metro Health and safe reentry as it relates to public health data. So if you're not aware, the city of San Antonio Metro Health is monitoring a dashboard of, if you will, of data as it relates to COVID-19. And you can see that there are 7 indicators under the indicator bar that the city is monitoring. And every day on their website, covid19.sanantonio.gov, they are publishing the most up-to-date data as it relates to COVID-19. And Metro Health aggregates that data and essentially determines where they feel our risk level is in the city of San Antonio. And currently you can see that it's right. I apologize. Right in between what looks to be serious and critical. It's really small in my window. But why I'm showing you this is because we're also watching this very closely. Thank you, Brandon. Right between severe and critical. And actually, that's been on the decline in the last 2 weeks. It's been improving at a rate that we should all be optimistic about, but certainly not comfortable with. But what we have been doing as a school district is attempting to mirror this indicator data and create our own reentry rubric. And I want to show you a sample of what we're working on right now, because we want to use public health data as a guideline to determine the rate at which it is safe to begin to reintroduce students into our schools. But also knowing that these indicators could change throughout the course of the year, as we've seen over the last several months. And so we want to make sure that we have a tool that we're all familiar with in this community, that if we're paying attention to the public health metrics, we'll know what that's going to mean for us in school. And so what we're working on is a school opening protocol. And we want to use the same indicators that Metro Health is using to then determine what seems to make the most sense as it relates to that public health data with regard to how safe it is to return. And you can see that, down the left column, I don't know if you can blow that up a little bit more, Brandon. Again, it's pretty small on my screen. But down the left column, that's pretty good. Those indicators, if you go left to right, phase 1 is when we're at the other end of this pandemic, and phase 5 is not far from where we are now. In fact, we're between phase 4 and 5 if you're looking at the public health data. But if I used just the first indicator on the left, the building status, if we're on the other end of the continuum, you would see that we would be fully open with 100% of our students learning on campus. And if you work your way from left to right, all the way to phase 5, you would see that we would have controlled access of all campuses and district facilities, limited access to the public, and we would be following social distancing guidelines and everything in between. If you looked at phase 3, for example, on the same row, you would see that we would be opening with 50% of students or less learning in person and access to the public by appointment only, and again, following all social distancing guidelines. So this is still in draft form. We've got a committee working on this. Again, we're working very closely with Metro Health, but I wanted to give you a preview of what we're standing up as a school district to guide us throughout the year and throughout this pandemic. So in pretty short order, certainly before your children were to start being reintroduced into school, this will be public information in East Central Independent School District, so that as we watch those metrics, we'll all be on the same page about what that's going to mean for phasing students back into the buildings. So I just wanted to share that with you. I wanted to really emphasize that we're trying to stay out of politics, and we're trying to keep our emotions separate from logic. And we're really going to focus on science and public health data to hopefully inform our decisions. That being said, East Central Independent School District is an independent school district. And the governor made it very clear that our Board of Trustees has the authority to make the decisions that they feel make the most sense for our particular community. Our particular community, while it is in Bexar County, is very similar to many of those around us, but certainly not exactly the same. And so this data is going to drive our decisions, but of course, surveying our community, surveying our staff, and weighing the needs of our students is always going to be, part of the data that we're using to make final decisions or any major decisions throughout the year as it relates to phasing in students. But we're going to be thoughtful. We're going to be informed. We're going to be tightly coupled to the public health data. And we want to be as transparent as we can be from start to finish as it relates to this pandemic with our community. All right, Brandon. So I want to go ahead and move now to some really important information about what's coming next week for you. If you are the parent of a secondary student, meaning you have a child that's going to be entering middle school in either Heritage Middle School or Legacy Middle School, or if you have a high school student that will be at East Central High School or at East Central Cass Lead next year, we have some Facebook Lives with those principals scheduled for next week. That information has been pushed out on social media, and you can expect to see that information broadcast between now and Monday through every outlet that we have. And so on Tuesday of next week, you'll have a Facebook Live opportunity starting at 5:30 p.m. with Mr. McKay, the high school principal, and Dr. Wendy Fuller, the Cass Lead principal. And they're going to be on with Brandon on Tuesday to talk about everything as it relates to getting ready for the first day of school if you're a high school student on either of those campuses. Going to be talking about your schedule, going to be talking about your first day, going to be talking about Meet the Teacher, which is on Wednesday, and how you connect to the virtual Meet the Teacher, how you get technology, and of course answer every single question that you might have for those two principals on Tuesday in preparation for Wednesday's Meet the Teacher, and then ultimately in preparation for the first day of school. If you're a Heritage student, you'll have the opportunity to connect with your principal, Miss Gomez, and you'll be able to connect at 5 p.m. And actually, it looks like are we going to go ahead and do those both together, Brandon?
Yes. Yeah, they will be both together. And so will Mr. McKay and Wendy Fuller.
Yeah.
They'll be together too.
Excellent. So we've settled on, which I think this is actually better than we had initially thought about, but Miss Gomez and Miss Lewis, who is the principal of Legacy Middle School, will be on together at 5 o'clock with Brandon on Monday. And again, this is for families whose children will be attending either of those junior highs, and they'll work through all of the same information as it relates to preparing for Tuesday's Meet the Teacher and as it relates to the first day of school. And so they'll be available to provide a good overview for you guys, give you examples of what your child's school day will look like, so on and so forth, and then be there to answer any questions live that you might have. So if you're a secondary student and parent, those are two dates that you're going to want to pay attention to and hopefully engage in so that you can get the most up-to-date information from the leaders of those respective campuses. If your child is going to enter into one of our elementary schools, we have an updated document with information for every single elementary campus. Very similarly, this is information that, depending on which school your child's going to go to, it's going to let you know when Meet the Teacher is. It's letting you know when you can expect to hear a call from your teacher. Your teachers have already begun to contact their students and obviously their parents. They're going to ask about technology. They're going to talk about distribution of technology. They're going to follow up and determine if there are additional needs for technology. And so you can see there that on this document that we're also putting out through all of our communication channels is available for families whose children will attend each of those campuses. They're all very similar, but there are subtle differences, and which is why that we consolidated all this information on this document so that there was no confusion with any information going out in the community from our elementary campuses, so that you knew specifically, depending on which campus you're going to, what information you need.
And we'll be posting it's actually in 2 pages, only showing page 1, but the other side has tradition, Pecan Valley. But we'll post this right after the broadcast here, and you can see, it has Meet the Teacher, when teachers are reaching out to people, all sorts of great information. We'll post that as soon as we're done.
Well, speaking of posting, Brandon, why don't we go to the EC Proud page, which is where we're archiving all of this information in one location for parents to have easy access, one-stop shop, if you will.
All right, let me bring it up real quick. So it's easy to find. If you go to our webpage, let's see, I'm going to share the screen right now. Okay, there we go. And then right in the middle right there, it has a back to the school website. So that's one way that people can get to it. The other way is if you just type in ecproud, all one word, .com, and then it will bring up that back to school website. And so there you see right there, you have some registration information, school supplies, immunizations, child nutrition, a copy of the latest reentry plan, sample daily schedules, the COVID Response Act, that's for educators, and then it also has need help with remote learning. You can click on this to have more help. Facebook Live with Superintendent Toscano, you could click on that one, and has all of the previous Facebook Lives that we've done, which are very helpful. The school supply lists, when we will receive technology, when I'll hear from my teacher, and when I'll receive my schedule. So those are a couple of things. And then you could scroll down here and, of course, see, actually, this is live right now. I don't know if you can see it, but the Watch the Latest Live with Superintendent Mr. Toscano is actually live right there on the ecproud.com website. And then, of course, links to our social media. But we're going to be keeping everything on here. And then there's also, like I said before, there's a remote learning page. It's this little cute dog with the talking on the phones there. Let me switch over to that page real quick. Let's see real quick. I think this is it right here. Nope, that's not it. Hold on. Hold the phone. We got technical error here. Hold on. Just
Come on, Brandon, get it together.
Hold on. I don't know why that. Let me try this real quick. Stand by. But I mean, as you could tell, a lot of work has gone on with that, and you can definitely tell that we're going to have this as kind of a one-stop shop for basically everything that has to do with coming back to school. And let's see, I'm still trying to find that one page. We didn't update it, but I will. Okay, hold on. There we go. Okay, I'm getting ready to bring it up. There we go. All right, so you could see there's welcome to East Central's remote learning zone. I was reading someone's comment. Remote learning zone is going to have everything that you need as talks about remote learning, the different types, Google Classroom tutorials, sample class schedules, help desk, link to school counselors, family support services, and child nutrition. And then over here, it has a remote learning help desk. This remote learning help desk is actually, it's set to every campus. So every campus has its own little help desk. And so once you click on the remote learning help desk, if you need any kind of assistance, questions on getting in, how-tos, anything like that, the folks on the other end of that help desk are going to be there, and they're by campus, and they will be able to help you out. So there's a look at ecproud.com and then the remote learning zone page. And again, mark it down, bookmark it, write it down, ecproud.com. That will take you right to it. There's also a link to the ecisd.net webpage, but ecproud.com is going to be your one-stop shop for everything that has to do with remote learning and back to school.
Brandon, if you could go back down on that page to the Google Assistance, Google Classroom Assistance.
Okay.
Yeah, that is a great resource, and wanted parents to know that if you're a parent or student, we have customized tutorials for you so that you could understand how to use Google Classroom, how your children are attaching assignments to Google Classroom. I know that a lot of you experienced that in the spring and familiarize yourself with it, but I just wanted to point back to those tutorials. And again, they're all housed on this particular page for, again, a one-stop shop and ease of use and quick information for you.
Yes, absolutely. And we're trying to streamline it as much as possible. We're adding stuff to ecproud.com every single day, and just keep checking back. And yeah, there's a lot of great information on there.
All right. Well, with that, I thought we would take some questions now, Brandon.
Okay, let's take a look here. If y'all have questions, go ahead and start asking them. We'll take questions at this time. Deandra, for the Meet the Teacher for Tradition, is it still on Zoom or in person? Have yet to receive a phone call from teacher. And again, this is coming right after the broadcast. We'll post their information, but Superintendent Toscano, if you want to touch on that.
Yeah. So in the most up-to-date information is in the document Brandon was sharing. It looks like parents will receive a call by Wednesday of next week, Deandra. So if you haven't heard from your teacher yet, you will by next Wednesday. Meet the Teacher will be virtual at Tradition, and you'll get all that information personally between now and Wednesday from your child's teacher or teachers, depending on how many children you have. And so again, the document Brandon shared earlier, we'll post immediately after this, so that any family from any school could get that same information.
Definitely, and stand by for that. As soon as this broadcast is over, we'll post that on there.
And DeAndrea, I'm understanding that Principal Kopek is reaching out to you as well with the same information. So
Yeah. And let's see, someone asked, how do you get to that page that we were talking about? Again, go to the homepage, is right there in the middle. It's called Back to School, or just ecproud.com. If you go to ecproud.com, bookmark it, it'll take you right to it.
So Brandon, can you go to the homepage real quick and just show that icon again?
Yes.
The district homepage.
Let me set it back up here. Okay. Okay, so bringing back up the homepage right now. So here's the school district's website, ecisd.net. And if you scroll down to right here, there's some, good pictures of kids engaged and doing remote learning, but it says back to school website, and the link is right there. And see how it's in blue. You click on that, it'll open up ecproud.com. If I click on it now, I think it's going to open in a separate window. But yes, if you go to ecisd.net and you click on that little link right there, back to school, it's literally here. You see the top, and then, not even that far down, you have to scroll. You'll see the back to school ecproud.com website.
Thank you, Brandon.
Let's see. Tasha Todd asked, will there be desk partitions in the classroom?
So Tasha, we're going to be providing masks and shields. Desk partitions could be an option if parents want those. The district will not be providing those. We will have desk partitions in environments where there are children where face PPE are developmentally either not appropriate given their age or given their particular medical circumstances. What the health professionals are telling us is that as long as we're wearing face shields, PPE, and distancing, that we're in really good shape. If we're wearing a face mask as well as shields, even better. And so the partitions in and of themselves, by themselves, are not as effective as the PPE. But that with the PPE, the desk partitions are unnecessary. Now, I will share. I do have my bag of PPE here, and I also have a really nice little desk partition. We have secured some for the district for some of the students that I mentioned. But this particular item is about $35 to $40. You can order it through Home Depot. We found this one to be the best value. There's a lot of vendors out there selling them, but for the price of a backpack or, as a school supply, it folds up and your child can carry it with them and take it from class to class. We're recently discovered or confirmed that we felt this was the best value and have intended on sharing that information for parents who would like just one more layer of protection. But again, the public health guidance is as long as your child's wearing, a clean face shield on a daily basis, and definitely when they're around other people within 6 feet, that we're in good shape.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, well, there's some other items. I just, we keep talking about the things that we're providing. We have, plenty of these for kids each and every day. We've got face shields for students. We've got face shields for the little ones that are a little bit smaller, a little more appropriate. I can tell you that one of my favorite that I wear, if I'm wearing my glasses, I can put these on over my glasses. It's really good because you can read my facial expressions, read my lips if I'm talking to a group or teaching, or little ones who are working with each other. This shield works great. These are on Amazon, literally 2 of them for $7.41. To me, these are a little better ease of use, especially for a little bit more mature kid, because this one has, this one's going to stay on a kid who's squirming around a little bit more, maybe the smaller ones. This one obviously would be a little bit easier to break and damage. So the little bitty ones maybe not as appropriate. But again, the district is providing these. This one I just purchased for myself because it's a little more appropriate for me for the things that I do throughout the day. We also have cloth face masks for every child and staff member, as well as options. What we have found with our staff and what we suspect with our students, similar to each of us, we kind of settle on what's most comfortable for us. But we do have all of these options, and most of them available through the district. Again, I've showed the various types of hand sanitizers and disinfectant wipes that we have available throughout the district. It'll be part of our risk mitigation protocols. We also have thermometers, digital thermometers. We won't be doing temperature on every student and staff member every day, but here shortly, we will be deploying an application for your phones as parents and as employees where you would self-screen every single day, and part of that is to put your temperature in, and so no employee or student will be allowed in school until that short screener is taken care of in the application, so that we can track data and see where hotspots are or trends are, or if we're starting to see an issue in any particular school, grade level, or in our community. But also we can be assured that no staff or students will be in the buildings without having been pre-screened. All of these are part of our risk mitigation protocols. And these, of course, we have not just in the clinic, but throughout the district in the event that symptoms change for anybody. So we can do a quick screening. We've also purchased some UV wands, and these would be for high touch areas, particularly like science labs at the secondary schools, just equipment that kids are going to have to share and touch from one class period to the next once they re-enter. This is just one more way, in addition to disinfecting, to make sure that we're getting all of the viral and bacterial pathogens that may be on those objects. One other thing that we're doing, and I know this is, Tasha, way beyond the question you asked, but I was waiting to pull my bag out, and that was kind of my entry point. But we have also contracted with a company that is coming in and going through every single air-conditioned unit, rooftop unit on every building in our entire school district, and essentially doing a tune-up, cleaning the coils, replacing filters, recharging, doing everything to make sure that our air quality is optimized due to the optimization of the operation of that equipment. So, I hope that I convey that we definitely are paying attention to what the risk mitigation guidelines are. We're making sure that we have all of the supplies necessary for all of our employees and for our students as they begin to return. But there are some additional options for parents to choose that may be a little bit more comfortable for their own children, or that may add an additional layer, like the desk carol that you referenced, Ms. Todd.
And I can verify, I'm not in the same building as Superintendent Toscano. I'm miles away, but I can verify as an employee that, yeah, we are getting all the wipes, and we're getting all the masks. So I can verify. And like I said, I'm not in the same office as Mr. Toscano. I'm miles away from him, but yeah, everybody, every department employees are getting this. And so, yeah, I can verify. I have quite a bit, actually. So that's great. So going back real quick to the Meet the Teachers, and I think it's not really shown on that one update because it's more elementary school specific. But it's a two-parter, Mr. Toscano. Tina asked, when will we be contacted for students attending Heritage as Meet the Teachers on Tuesday? And then on a follow-up, Amber Torres asked, my son will be attending Legacy in the sixth graders, so will each teacher reach out?
Yeah, to both parents, your children's schedules have been mailed. You should be receiving them any day now. Also encourage both of you to connect with Miss Gomez and Miss Lewis on Facebook Live on Monday, where if you hadn't already heard from your teachers, you can get information directly from their principals about from your principals about what you could expect, as well as what you need to do to connect with your teachers at Meet the Teacher on Tuesday. And so my best answer is that by Tuesday you would have had the opportunity to connect with every one of your children's teachers, but before then you would have heard from your children's principal about how you make sure you do that on Tuesday, but also answer any other questions that you might have about attending each of those campuses.
And on the same note, on mailings, Lisa asked, "Are we going to be getting anything in the mail? I do not get emails from the district, even though my daughter is registered." First, I want to say, Lisa, I'll look up your information, make sure that you're in Parent Link, because you should be getting those emails. But if you could send us a direct message on Facebook, I'll research that for you. But if you want to address that, Mr. Toscano.
Yeah, and one thing I also want to address that Ms. Mathis, your question reminded me of is during the registration process, one of the biggest challenges has been that we haven't had accurate email addresses in a lot of cases. And so you'll want to make sure that your email addresses and your contact information are accurate in our enrollment system, because all of the correspondence that you'll receive is going to be to those addresses. And I mean, things like a .net instead of a .com, or a capital letter here or versus a lowercase letter there. Simple clerical errors make the email incorrect, which means then you don't get our automated phone calls. You don't get the automated email that comes with the automated phone calls. So you're missing out on a lot of opportunities to get information from the district if we don't have that information or updated information. So as far as secondary students go, they will be receiving their schedules in the mail. Those schedules come with a cover letter that kind of explains many of the things that we're explaining to you tonight about what you can expect next week, what you can expect at Meet the Teacher, and what you can expect before the first day of school. I hope that answered your question, Ms. Mathis. One other thing I want to add is that the first day of school, if I hadn't already said it, is going to be a really focused day for all of the teachers across the district, and their focus is going to be on getting kids connected. So not as focused on getting started with instruction, but they want to make sure that we get all kids connected. We're going to have help desks stood up to respond to needs if we're having connectivity issues, if we're having login issues, all of those sorts of things. Teachers are going to be hyper-focused and committed to getting all their students on their roster connected with them through Google Classroom. At the elementary school, for the most part, you'll have one or a very small number of teachers. At the secondary school, that can be as many as 8. And so even between all of the things that you'll be preparing yourself for that first day, even on that first day, we're going to be, doing everything we can to reach out and connect with you and your child if we're not connected.
So this question is about buses, and I do want to say we've talked about buses in previous Facebook Lives, and of course, the reentry plan is on ecproud.com. But the question is, what are the safety protocols for our buses?
So as it currently stands, we are distancing on buses per the guidelines that were sent out by TEA early on. But they also include, sanitization before students get on the bus, sanitization after students get on the bus or get off the bus, as well as being distanced while they're on the bus wearing PPE. Getting on during the ride and as they get off the bus, all must have PPE on as well.
All right, and then Jessica has it's more of like a comment, but going back to the face shields, are the face shields recommended by CDC? She's read through research that the face shield only works best while wearing a cloth mask. They also only protect the persons wearing them and don't protect others. So if a child sneezes, the particles won't be captured like the cloth mask.
Yep, that's a very accurate, Ms. Guzman. And so what essentially we've been told and what the guidance seems to suggest is that if you're not wearing anything, obviously that's the worst case scenario. If you're wearing a face shield and you're outside of 6 feet, then you're in pretty good shape. If you're wearing a face shield and inside of 6 feet, that's very risky. If you're wearing a face mask, um, you're you're safer than if you're wearing a face shield. If you're wearing a face mask and a face shield, you're as safe as you could possibly be with regard to droplets and communication through the air as COVID-19 is transmitted. So all that being said, a face shield is better than nothing, but a face shield means, I wouldn't trust that 6 foot distance if all I'm wearing is a shield. I'd want to be outside of that 6 foot distance.
So we talked about schools reaching out to y'all, and we will post the information as soon as this is over about tech and schedules and things. But still getting questions: when are we going to start issuing laptops and hotspots?
So the high school's already begun. The secondary campuses and elementary campuses will send that campus-specific information out next week. But for the most part, all of those things are starting next week, depending on the campus. And again, one of the questions that we're getting a lot of is, hey, I didn't fill out the request form. I didn't know about it. And so you'll want to contact your child's principal via email, phone call, get in contact with them, let them know your situation and that you're requesting a device for the reasons that you feel that you need one, and they'll get you added to the waiting list. We do believe that we'll be able to accommodate most families and most children in most cases, at least initially as we start the year, but know that we have devices on the way that we've ordered in addition to what we have. We're in the process of ordering 3,000 additional Chromebooks and 1,000 additional hotspots above and beyond what we already have available. So I say that to say that, again, we're confident that we can get everybody started. We feel that we're gonna have students that want to be remote all year. We also feel like it's an uncertain environment with COVID-19 that we could find ourselves at any point in the year having to temporarily close for a day or two if we are investigating or contact tracing several positives, or if Metro Health determines that it's unsafe, like they did in the spring, for schools to even be in session at all. And so we know that every child's going to have access to remote learning, and that's going to require internet, and it's going to require a device, and preferably a device for every school-age child in the home, because our remote learning is not what it was in the spring. I mean, your child's going to connect with their teacher or teachers as if they were in school, going from one class to the next, or one block of instruction to the next, and they have the ability to connect with their teacher and be taught in real time. And so if you have more than one child in the home who are sharing a device, it's going to be difficult for both of them to be logged in live and receiving instruction by their respective teachers. And so we know that as we start to receive those additional devices, we'll be able to accommodate more households that maybe they have connectivity, but it's not optimal because they don't have enough devices. And so hang in there and know that all of that's coming, but because of the demand, the lead time on receiving those isn't as quick as it was before COVID-19. But we did put some of those orders in earlier this summer, and so we're anticipating those in the first few weeks of school, and then more thereafter.
Sarah has a good question. How long will they be able to continue virtual learning?
So Sarah, a family can choose for their child virtual learning for the entire school year if they prefer that. The commissioner came out last week and said that they would honor a parent's choice and enable us to provide virtual learning all year long. And as long as they're in attendance and making academic progress, we can account for them as if they were in school.
There's been, some registration things that, questions and things that people have, but Ashley says she needs to register her kids still. She's having trouble. And then she also followed that up with, can we register in person at all?
By appointment, Mr. and Ms. Casadas, we could probably accommodate. What we're going to do is take your name and follow up through our attendance folks and make sure that all of your questions could be answered, and maybe we could troubleshoot with you over the phone. And if for some reason it would be most appropriate to schedule an appointment, then we'll work that out with you. But generally speaking, most folks have been able to work through those challenges once we can connect with you and have a conversation. So we'll definitely follow up with you and see what's most appropriate to get your children registered.
Are there, I think I've heard before, are there stations at each campus to help with registration? I thought I've heard that, but I don't know if that.
Well, normally there would be, Brandon, but because of our circumstances, we've moved all of our registration documents online just to minimize traffic into our buildings and contact among our community. So, the preferred is definitely electronic, but again, some cases are a little more complex, and we got to work with families at a deeper level to get everything organized and completed for registration. So again, Ms. Casadas, I'm not sure exactly what the circumstances are, but we definitely want to help you get your children enrolled, and we'll follow up with you to make sure that we can help you do that.
Sarah asks about buses. When will updated bus routes, pickup, drop-off times, etc., be updated on the website? This is actually, it goes through Department of Transportation. They have their own thing, but as soon as they update it, we'll blast it on there. I haven't received an update yet.
Yeah, so Ms. Cornelius, I'm assuming that you know where the information is on the website, and based on your question, it sounds to me like you know that when you put your address in there, it tells you exactly when your pickup drop-off time is, and so you're referring to when that's going to be updated, and normally that's updated by a week out before school starts. Obviously, with us starting remotely, there's a little delay in that sense of urgency as far as timeline, but our goal is still a week before school starts. And so I would look for that, probably by mid next week. But I will follow up with the transportation department and see where we're at with that timeline and ensure that we hit the time frame that we would normally do so. And then we'll push that information out so that you can get on the site and see the updated pickup time, pickup drop-off times, etc.
Destiny asked, will administration have a safety shield when they talk to students and parents? I guess just talking about like some of the things that, are going on at central office and things like that.
Say that again. What was that about central office?
So it said, will administration have a safety shield when they talk to students and parents?
Yeah, so all employees are required to have PPE on at all times, in particular when they're interacting with others, colleagues and students, parents, and the public. And so you would expect administration to be wearing mask and shields. In some cases, they would choose to do that, but at the very minimum, they'll be wearing a mask. All of our reception areas, all of our staff that interact with the public, parents as they come to visit on campus, in addition to that, all have splash guards around their desk areas. Of course, those that are in the back office that generally interact with students will be wearing PPE and may not have the additional splash guard. But yes, it is a requirement for all employees when interacting with one another, when interacting with students, absolutely, and when interacting with parents and the public, for them to be wearing PPE at all times.
Sports related question. My boys are at East Central and involved in tennis and band. I know we've addressed, sports and band before, but when can they expect to start practicing at the school?
Mr. Burgess, as of right now, it's a little bit uncertain, and it's uncertain because of the public health guidance. Metro Health did send some guidance out about 30 minutes before this call. The Metro Health dashboard that I shared at the beginning of our meeting this evening has actually Metro Health has created. They pulled 3 of those indicators out and said these are the ones that schools should consider focusing on. And so of the 5 indicators that are on that dashboard, the 3 that Metro Health is going to prioritize to advise schools is the positivity rate, the 14-day decline, and the doubling rate of COVID-19. So those are 3 of the 5 on the dashboard I shared earlier. And so based on where those indicators are, Metro Health has some guidelines for extracurricular activities. And so we're in the process of kind of taking a closer look at that. Again, we just got it, within the last hour, and we're going to see how that relates to what we're trying to create for our own respective community. And then hopefully that'll give us some more specific guidance on when the metrics indicate that it is safe to return to practice and competition and ultimately performances.
So Sarah followed up. She said, so we can do a remote learning all year if we want.
Yes, sir. Yes, ma'am, Ms. Boble. You can do remote learning all year if you choose. A couple of things I have to say about that is, every kid's different and their needs are different, and but some general things to consider. That no kid is going to benefit from remote learning all year long like they would face-to-face unless they have a lot of support at home to assist with that learning, particularly if they struggle at any point throughout the year. They're also going to have to be really consistent about logging on and following their daily schedule and engaging with their teachers and getting their assignments done and connecting with teachers if they need tutorials, etc. Without any face-to-face, that's definitely a little bit more of a challenge over time. And then thirdly, whether they're remote or whether they begin to come to school in person when that's appropriate to do so, their attendance counts every day regardless. And so if for some reason they don't log in and they're counted absent and it's unexcused, that can mount up pretty quickly as it relates to truancy laws and as it relates to the 90% rule, meaning that a student cannot be promoted or given credit for any courses that they don't attend at least 90% of the available school days. And so it's possible for a child to be successful remote learning all year long. I'm not suggesting that it's not possible. It's definitely very difficult on the child depending on their age and their readiness, but it's also a pretty significant challenge on the household for adults to have to proctor that for the entire year. So I just want to put that out there. But to answer your question again, very directly, a parent could choose for their child to be remote all year long this year.
Selena asked, because the survey just ended last night. My question is that right now, do you guys know the percentage of the parents for synchronous versus asynchronous? I am aware that you can do either or both. And just as a follow-up, maybe you want to touch on the percentages of people that chose that and coming back to campus on September 8th.
Yeah, thank you for that question, Ms. Brock. It's a fantastic question and really important at this time. So first of all, I hope everybody was clear that the questionnaire was not a commitment. We were hoping to get a 6-week commitment, but at the end of the day, depending on how your child is responding to what you chose, there is flexibility there to create a better learning modality option for your child. That being said, our survey responses are somewhat similar to what they were the first round, and that is that most of the respondents were high school aged students or their families. So we're hearing from fewer percentages of elementary aged children's families. And so the percentage of respondents gives us a less valid sample size at the elementary level than it does at the secondary level. So at the secondary level, we're seeing between 30 and 40% who are comfortable face-to-face when that opportunity presents itself, and between 60 and 70% that are more comfortable at this time being remote. In terms of elementary school, It is also very similar to that, but again, the percentage of respondents is much smaller, so we're a little less comfortable with the accuracy of those responses.
All right. We have a hard stop time of 6, but we have 10 more minutes until 6 o'clock. I'm gonna squeeze every answer out of Mr. Toscano here. So this is an interesting one. Some school districts are pulling back their restart date for remote classes. Do you see U Central in the near future having to halt remote learning? I mean, that's 2 weeks away, basically. What are your reactions to that?
Yeah, Miss Oxford, we're so because remote learning isn't the best case scenario, as I mentioned a moment ago, for most kids for a prolonged period of time. um, we could find ourselves in a situation where we got to make some decisions about whether we want to alter the school year in any way. What we have done in our school calendar is we've built 17 days into June that are basically closure makeup days. We've also got about 8 additional days built into the school year as it relates to instructional minutes. So, long story short, we have as many as 24 additional days that if we decided that it would be best to pause and extend the school year, we have some flexibility around 24 days. We're in the process of researching maybe alternative school year calendars that the district might consider for future reference. But as it relates to this year, 24 days are what we have built in, and anything outside of that, we wouldn't have flexibility on. So, what that means is that outside of those 24 days, we would have to provide remote learning if we were not authorized to re-enter students. We're optimistic that if, as a community and a greater community of San Antonio, we continue to follow the risk mitigation guidelines, that we'll be able to gradually re-enter students and have a situation where students could have a combination of face-to-face and remote. And if we had that circumstance, we feel very confident that we could meet the needs of all students and accelerate learning. Um, so that's kind of where we're at, and we're monitoring that closely, and we're thinking about all those contingency plans. Um, and that's what we have prepared in the worst case scenario.
So this next question, I saw another question about, and I missed it. It got bumped off, but about classroom sizes, if they're going to be, if there's going to be a limit on students or a limit on number of classroom sizes when campuses reopen. But Erica has also kind of on the same logic here. If we chose virtual learning for the first 9 weeks and then face-to-face for the second 9 weeks, will they keep their same teachers, and will they be denied at face-to-face if too many kids are in a classroom?
So students will have their same teacher, same schedule, whether face to face or whether remote. And as far as face to face, it is possible that we would have more requests for face to face than we're able to allow into our buildings, given whatever the public health data looks like. So let's just say, for example, we're in an orange category per the public health data, and that category, and I'm just throwing a number out there because the Board of Trustees has not finalized where we want to fall. But let's say it was 25% of our enrollment, and that based on face-to-face attendance, we're at 35% in that particular school. Well, 10% of our population would have to shift from face-to-face to remote, and so we would have to then look at several pieces of data to determine which of the students are the most in need of face-to-face. And we're prepared to do that. We don't prefer to do that based on the data that I indicated a few minutes ago about the percent of parents choosing face-to-face instruction. If that trend were to continue, this might not even be an issue. We might have a small enough percentage wanting face-to-face that we may be able to accommodate all of them when that time comes. If your child is a high school student, we are authorized to offer a hybrid schedule to high school students. We have not made the decision to do that. but we could, meaning that only half of the student body is allowed on any given day. And of course, because we're at around 40% of high school students who are even interested in face-to-face, if that trend were to continue, half the student body there and, half of 40%, theoretically, being 20% of the student body on campus on any given day, that we have more than enough space in our classrooms in on the high school campus to keep children safe. As for your previous question to this, Brandon, about number of students in a classroom, that's a really timely question because early on, we were giving guidance to create 6 foot of distance all the way around each child's location in the classroom, as well as around the teacher as it related to every child in the classroom. And we ran several models. And in an average classroom at the elementary level, we were around 14 students that we could safely fill that room with. And at the high school level, it was closer to 17. We were projecting having between 9 and 11, are planning for 9 to 11 in the elementary classroom and 11 to 14 at the secondary level. And so we were going to be more conservative than that guidance. But all that being said, the guidance from Metro Health that came out today is a little bit different than that. And we've got to really unpack that to know for sure. Some of the language in that guidance, which is very inconsistent with everything we've heard up to this point, is pods of 6 students in a classroom. And so we've got to unpack that and see if that related to special program spaces or if that was superimposed over all classrooms, because 6 children in a classroom that could be safely distancing 14 students means a very inefficient use of space and a very much exaggerated amount of distancing as it relates to all of the guidelines that we've been seeing since March when the pandemic ensued here in San Antonio. So at any event, we're going to adhere to the guidelines and make the best decisions for our students in East Central ISD with respect to safety and getting on with their education.
So there are some, tech questions like, can 2 kids log on one laptop at the same time, same grade level, dual language? And then there was another tech question too, like basically asking like, there's one device and 2 kids, what do you suggest that they can do?
Well, Sydney, in this situation, I would say the best thing that could happen in your situation is your children are in the same classroom, given that they're in the same program at the same grade level. If they're in the same classroom, they can share one laptop. This is a little less common of a situation. So if you have 2 children at home and they're in 2 different grade levels or 2 different campuses in our system, if they both want to participate in synchronous instruction, they're going to need a device each. Now, keep in mind that a Chromebook is one option, or laptop. A desktop is another option. An iPad also can access Google Classroom, and even a smartphone can access Google Classroom. Best case scenario is that students aren't using a cell phone, a smartphone the entire time. That's not optimal, but alternating students, if you had a laptop and a smartphone, for example, could get you by if it's for a short period of time. But optimally, every child would have their own laptop to access synchronous instruction in their respective classes in the same home at the same time.
Right. That's a tough one. It really is, for, families with limited devices. But yeah, you're right. I mean, there are different devices that you can use, not just a Chromebook or not just a computer, to possibly get by, but yeah, that's a tough situation. So I think we're almost out of time. I'm going to see if there's one more question left. But Superintendent Toscano, as we wrap up here, is there anything else that you would like to add?
Well, I just want to thank the community for being patient and for trusting us to, stay aware and connected with Metro Health and all of the guidance as it relates to the pandemic and safety considerations. I also want to um, make sure the community knows how hard the staff has been working. Staff never left. Teachers did break for the summer, but they're back and they're working hard. And we've had teachers and curriculum staff working throughout the summer to stand up instruction for remote learning and prepare resources for teachers as they returned. All of your teachers are going to be working from their classrooms to provide remote instruction, and none of them want anything more than to have you in their classrooms with them. And, I know there's a lot out there about, you know, teachers not wanting to go back to work. There's a lot of negative assumptions that, they're trying to avoid coming back to work and they want to get paid, for doing nothing. And, our tax dollars are paying them to instruct our kids and all of these sorts of things. And where you might be able to find an isolated circumstance here or there where that may be the case, that is not, um, you know, that is not true in most cases. Our teachers have worked extremely hard. In the spring, they worked into the night and into weekends, and they're going to continue to do whatever they need to do to provide the instruction that your child needs, with a burning desire to get them back into their classrooms. We all want your children in our buildings, but we all know that we got to do our part to make sure that everyone's safe. We're educators. We're not physicians. We're not epidemiologists, and we've never lived through a pandemic. And so, while we really are eager to get your kids back in school and to get sports and band and all of those things kicking back up and, get back to normal way of living, whatever that is anymore, there's some things that we're going to have to, resist in the interest of safety. And so everybody is at work. Everybody's here working hard. Everybody's going to do the very best they can for your kids, and they're never going to stop and rest until you're satisfied. But someday, and hopefully that's sooner than later, we're going to be able to start getting your kids back into the buildings with us and start moving towards some sense of what we're familiar with when it comes to school.
So I did find one question, and I like it because it is very specific, and this will be the last one. Learning Academy students, their classes online through Edgenuity, how will these classes work?
Terry, we're pretty excited about Learning Academy students in that they're going to be able to access more direct instruction from teachers remotely than they've been able to do prior, because we did not have remote instruction set up through Google Classrooms. They were limited to Edgenuity. And as you may or may not know, Edgenuity doesn't provide live real-time instruction on content. The students kind of move at their own pace and they watch short videos that are pre-recorded, and they kind of got to learn quite a bit on their own. And that can be a tall order and really tough. But we're excited because we're going to be able to give these students access to teachers teaching that content in real time virtually. So we actually think that for Learning Academy students, this is actually going to be a much better situation.
All right. All right. So that is the final question, and that wraps up this session. But we'll be back next week, right? For another.
Oh, yeah. Well,
man.
So our plans are, Brandon, to come back next week. But I do believe that at this particular point, families really want to start hearing from their principals. They want to start hearing from their teachers. They have more specific questions, which is why we've organized what we're doing next week. So if I'm still in demand at all, at the end of next week, we'll get back on and we'll keep doing it every week until folks feel like I'm an afterthought. And if we get to that point, we're communicating exceptionally well, Brandon.
Come on, you're not. So I just wanted to bring it up again. The Facebook Live for high school. It's not Shane McKay, it's Shane McKay. Sorry, I'll correct that. But it's Tuesday. We'll be doing a Facebook Live with those principals Tuesday at 5:30. And then there is one for middle schools as well. Let's see. There we go. On Monday at 5 p.m., we'll have the principals from Heritage and Legacy. So, but you're always in demand, Mr. Toscano. Don't shortchange yourself.
All right. I appreciate it. I appreciate that, Brandon. Well, East Central family, East Central community, I hope you have a great weekend, and again, we're going to get this through this thing together, and we're all working hard on behalf of you and our community, and most importantly, our children. So we'll see you soon.
All right. We'll see you soon.